I woke up to a racket that sounded like a jackhammer brawling with a broken lawnmower. Peering out the window, I realized it wasn't a dray it was a construction crew knee-deep in my creek. My creek. The one that's been winding through my backyard since before the HOA was even a twinkle in some developer's eye. The same creek where my daughter snagged her first tadpole and my dog nearly drowned chasing a raccoon. But there they were, guys in neon vests and hard hats, heaving wet cement into the water like it was a crack in a sidewalk. I bolted outside in my pajamas, flailing my arms like a lunatic, shouting over the din. "What in God's name are you doing?" One of them turned and, dead serious, said, "Drainage improvements, sir." HOA's call. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a mix-up. It was a full-on assault. The day before, I'd noticed something odd. HOA President Linda Voss had been hovering near the creek with a realtor, gesturing at the water like it had personally offended her designer purse. I didn't think much of it. Then Linda's the type who'd scowl at anything that isn't manicured, beige, or hosting a self-named cocktail party. But apparently, in her petty, control-freak mind, my wild, Levying Creek was just a sloppy puddle dragging down the neighborhood's VYB. Never mind that it's on my private land, well beyond the HOA's reach. Rules don't apply when Linda's got a VY shown. As the machines roared and cement swallowed the rocks and reeds, I stood there, speechless, watching an ecosystem choke. Fish thrashed at the edges. A pair of herons that nested by the willow took off, probably for good. The workers just kept pouring, smoothing, burying. I called the cops. I called the city. I even tried the HOA's emergency line, which of course went straight to Linda's voicemail. "Hi, you've reached Linda Voss of Meadow Ridge HOA, where community thrives." Community? Sure, if your definition includes felony-level overreach. The police showed up, poked around, and shrugged. One officer said, "If they've got a permit, it might be legit." Permit? What permit? This is my property. The creek's mine. No one touches it without my okay. Except, apparently, when the HOA decides it doesn't fit their cookie-cutter aesthetic, they'll pave it over and call it progress. I dug into my files, pulling out my deed. There it was, the creek, marked as a protected natural feature with a minor runoff easement. The HOA had zero jurisdiction. None. But they'd done it anyway. The next day, I cornered Linda as she climbed out of her pristine SUV by the clubhouse. I thrust photos of the cemented creek at her like they were a smoking gun because they were. She didn't flinch, just sighed and said, "We're boosting property values. Buyers don't want untamed nature near their decks." Untamed nature, she said, like it was a stain on her marble floors. Then she tacked on, "It's being reimagined as a dryscape feature, very chic." Reimagined? Like she was upcycling a thrift store find, not killing a habitat. I wanted to yell, but I didn't. I smiled instead. What Linda didn't know was that I'm not just some guy with a creek and a chip on his shoulder. I'm an environmental systems engineer with years of federal restoration work under my belt. I've designed water monitoring setups for state parks and drafted flood mitigation plans. I know every law, loophole, and penalty tied to messing with a waterway. Better yet, I've got friends with dump trucks, friends who owe me favors, friends who'd relish boxing in a gated community for a good cause. First, though, I needed proof. For 2 days, I gathered everything. Photos, timestamps, drone clips, witness statements. A security cam I'd set up to watch deer crossings caught 3 HOA-branded goons dumping cement like it was a weekend chore. They thought I'd grumble and give up. They didn't know they'd lit a fuse and I was holding the match. I rang my buddy Carlos, who runs a hauling outfit with a dozen dump trucks built for heavy jobs. I told him I needed a few for a community project. He laughed and asked, "How many? And how tight are we parking him?" That's when I knew this was going to be epic. Then I saw it. A listing for Meadow Ridge Phase 3 expansion. The photos showed pristine homes and a wide, flat greenbelt, right where my creek used to be. The gray smear of dried cement was even VY-sible. This wasn't about drainage or looks. It was greed. Linda and her cronies had planned this to juice up home prices. My creek, my sanctuary, it was just in their way. So I made a vow. If they could fill my creek with cement, I'd fill their streets with trucks. Monday morning, Carlos rolled up in a beat-up hard hat, spitting sunflower seeds like he was at a ball game. Behind him growled 3 massive dump trucks, each a beast of noise and steel. The drivers hopped out, boots thumping pavement like a showdown was brewing. One asked, "Where do you want these monsters?" I handed over a map I'd sketched, marking every entry to Meadow Ridge. Main gate, side road, back exit. The plan was clean and clever: park each truck to look like a random breakdown, angled so nothing could slip by. No laws broken, just a string of mechanical failures hitting at peak HOA chaos. Monday, during their landscaping spree. By 6 a.m., Tony's truck broke down at the main gate. Head up, hazards on. Tony sprawled underneath with a fake wrench. Carlos took the Sayre VYC road, tossing bolts for flare. The third truck, Big Maria, sealed the emergency exit. Linda's crew loved to sneak through. Maria's driver, Sam, was mid-crossword when the first resident tried to leave. It started slow. Folks thought it was just road work. But by 7:30, the cracks showed. Why can't I get to work? Where's my grocery delivery? Why'd the UPS guy peel out? Linda stormed up to Tony's truck in yoga gear, clipboard in hand, demanding answers. Tony, cool as ice, said, "Engine trouble. Gonna be a while." She snapped, "This is private property. I'll have you towed." He grinned. "Private? City says it's public. Good luck getting a tow truck in." By mid-morning, Meadow Ridge was a pressure cooker. Residents milled in driveways, yelling into phones, cursing failed Uber attempts. One guy in a suit tried the back gate, met Big Maria, and ended up knee-deep in mud after a failed escape. He screamed about calling the governor. Sam just waved and said, "Go for it, pal." Inside the HOA office, Linda ran a frantic strategy session. With binoculars, a neighbor's doorbell cam, and a drone I borrowed from a kids' robotics club, I watched her pace, ranting about lawsuits and sabotage. She didn't get it. Two weren't breaking rules. Every truck was legally parked, hazards blinking, excuses airtight. Emergency access? Clear, just not for Linda's oversized SUV. Around noon, a pizza guy with a party order gave up and handed out free slices outside the gate. By 1 p.m., the Meadow Ridge lockdown was trending. Drone shots, HOA meltdowns, and a slow mo of Linda stomping off, fuming. I waited till the chaos peaked, then strolled to the clubhouse in hiking gear, clipboard in hand. Linda answered the door, glaring. "Here to gloat," she spat. "Nope," I said, handing her drone stills of her crew cementing my creek. "This is with the city, county, EPA, and a few reporters. Enjoy." Her face went slack. I added, "Trucks move when I see a restoration permit." Then I left, her stunned silence ringing in my ears. That night, news vans swarmed. Reporters couldn't breach the blockade, but social media did the work. Residents venting, Cementgate, trending. Tuesday, Meadow Ridge was a gilded cage. Trash piled up, deliveries stalled, and one lady lost it when her Instacart driver couldn't get through. Linda hid behind bushes, her board turning on her as the EPA loomed. An emergency Zoom meeting showed her unraveling. No makeup, just a hoodie and excuses. A guy named Roger blew up about missed appointments. Then Ellen, Linda's ex-ally, shared emails pro-VYing Linda plotted the creek fill for profit. The call cut off amid calls to oust her. By evening, the press dubbed it Cementgate, and environmental groups reached out. An EPA agent called, confirming an investigation. I sent him a mountain of EVY denke. He said, "This is loud. It's already MOVYing fast." Wednesday, an EPA van rolled up. Agent Paul didn't mess around. Brushing off Linda's coffee offer to demand records. By the creek, he probed the cement, eyed a dead frog, and muttered, "This'll bury them." He took my EVY denke, predicting fines, restoration, maybe jail. Linda's excuses: faulty maps, contractor errors fell flat. Paul shut her down. "It's a protected waterway. You broke federal law." A cease and desist order went up that afternoon. Residents gawked, some cheered. That night, Roger called. Linda was out, voted off the board. The new president, Ellen, met me on my porch, promising to fix it. I linked her with nonprofits for the restoration. Thursday, crews and volunteers broke up the cement, freeing the creek. Kids hauled buckets, neighbors brought snacks, and water flowed again, weak, but alive. The trucks stayed one more night, a silent warning. Linda slunk off, listing her house quietly after tanking its value. The EPA fined the HOA, and lawsuits piled up. I cracked a beer by the creek, victorious. A week later, I had Carlos haul the broken cement back not to dump, but to build a monument outside the gate. A steel box with a glass lid held a slab engraved. "Try me again." Residents loved it. Meadow Ridge, softenless control, more community. Linda resurfaced elsewhere, but the internet remembered, roasting her anew. The creek healed, kids returned, and that cement relic stood as a reminder. Mess with nature, and it'll mess back sometimes with a diesel chorus.